of all, this passage is related to a passage we did last week where the Zohar talks about who is called human. And here, human, quote unquote, is related, or Adam, in the Zohar's language, is related to purity, right? There's a kind of archetype of purity related to the divine flow, and that is attributed here to Jewish people and to kosher food, right? And not to non-Jews and their non-kosher food. Notice in this passage that the fact that, so a couple of things are done here. The spirit spreading through the other nations emerges from the side of impurity. The Zohar makes a claim that the soul of people from non-Jewish nations isn't just not Jewish. They make the claim that they come from the side of impurity. In other words, from the Sitra Achra. In other words, they're demonic. Now, is the Zohar making that claim about all non-Jews? Or is it only making it about Akum? Akum is the term in the Zohar, right? Ovdei kochavim umazalot, those who worship, the stars and constellations. Of course, there's plenty of star constellation worship in the Zohar, but that's a separate issue. So, in any event, they sound like they're sticking at a maximalist claim, yeah, about the Jewish people, and an enmity or against a non-Jewish people is coming from the other side. How much they meant this, I don't know. Anyone want to react just to that first part? The spirit
I have a question.
Yeah.
Barry, what's the other nations? What's that in Aramaic?
Yeah, in Aramaic it's Akum. It's Akum Ovdei Kochavim Umazalot. It's idol worshipping nations.
So it's not all other nations. It's specifically idol worshippers.
Yeah, here actually the Zohar says Bishar Amin Akum, other idol worshipping nations.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the spirit spreading through the other idol worshipping nations. Now, Matt here translates it as the other nations because he's assuming that the Zohar presumes that all other nations are included in that category. So he doesn't even bother putting Akum in because he's making it a translational choice that means all the nations. I think that's probably right to the original meaning of the Zohar.
Which is also what it means in the Tanya, in your view?
I turn it over to Peter Salson and the traveling Rabbi Confer, our resident current Tanya experts. In the Tanya, Akum seems to mean, and when he says, he seems to mean all other non-Jew. He doesn't seem to be distinguishing between like the Muslims, yes, and the Christians, no, or vice versa. Compare, contrast, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's...
Bridgeport, Connecticut, coming up
now. I don't know if my voice is coming through because the internet's unstable, but wasn't it true that Akum was a replacement for the word goy because of medieval censors? So do we know that Akum was the original text of the Zohar, or did it say goyim?
Right, I don't know. The text of the Zohar wasn't published until the late 1500s. So that's a good question, was there some earlier variant that didn't even say that altogether? But
now to get to Peter Berman's point, what I remember from how far Rabbi Confer and I have gotten in the Zohar is that, in the Tanya, is that the Tanya thinks that Jews are so different from non-Jews that Jews and only Jews have a second divine soul, whereas non-Jews only have an animal soul. So I don't know that this is the wording is enough different. The concept sounds enough different that I'm not sure it's exactly the same, but it's got a lot of parallels.
Yeah, I think, people cite this as the source. I don't know, my video froze again. People cite this as the source text of the Tanya. Okay. So interesting, we should also note that there is a taboo with non-kosher food, particularly non-kosher meat, like pork here, right? That the kosher souls eat the kosher meat, and the non-kosher souls imbibe the demonic powers of the treif meat. Yes, there's Joe Souza has raised his hand.
Can't hear you, Joe.
Oh, you're on mute. No, you raised your hand, but you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm a little bit, because I'm in another shiur that's just doing like kashrut. So tameh and tahor just have very different meanings, and kind of looking at it here, it's really interesting because it's like tameh and tahor. Like, I guess that's the question. Like the I just find it interesting that we're associating tameh with demonic or with evil when that's not totally clear in like Derisa. Like it's not exactly clear that that's what tameh means. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm asking. I guess I'm just reacting that it's really striking to me. I don't know if this is innovative or if this is a way to reveal like what's behind these hukim about why you separate certain animals and eat certain things. So sorry, I'm like dribbling on here, but there's something, I guess I'm slightly like uncomfortable almost with the way that the Zohar is kind of associating demonic and sort of evil with Tameh and Tahor, because I'm not sure that to me the line isn't totally clear that that's what those things mean. I don't know if I might be off there, but that's just a reaction I'm giving on this read.
No, there is something interesting going on here where Tuma and Tahara expand beyond their biblical category into like blessed or cursed, like they become maximal categories.
Right.
Okay, I want to say one more thing and then we'll go on to the next paragraph. The inner spirit of those figures attains, what do we say? So long as the spirit abides in that body, it is called impure. Oh, so right, so long as the yeah, here we are. So long as the spirit abides in that body, right, it is called impure. So what is going on there? The non-Jewish body, according to the Zohar, is impure so long as it has the demonic spirit in it. But what happens when after death? After death, the impure spirit is left, and that body is no longer impure because the demon has left it, which is why. So this is the Zohar giving a mystical reason for a biblical rule. The biblical rule is that certain bodies impart impurity after death. Interestingly, the only bodies that impart impurity after death are those that possessed purity during life, such that the absence of the purity in this Zoharic theory, right? And if you had tahara, purity in the form of a holy soul during life, then death, the absence of that holiness, leaves a sort of void which renders something impure. But in a kind of ironic twist, if you were inhabited by demons during life and you never had those, then once you're impure during your life, whereas the other body would be tahor, but then after your death, you're not impure anymore because the demon is gone. In other words, it's like an improvement. Yeah. For the Jewish person, from the body's perspective, there's a negative after death. The holy soul is gone, and so it's like down a level, and it's therefore impure. It's almost a relative theory of purity and impurity. But for the non-Jewish person, the demon that was impure, that inhabited during its life as a possessed spirit, is gone, and so it's actually an improvement. It's no longer impure. It's now neutral.
So Barry, it looks to me like it's the garment that's pure or impure, and that the spirit takes on